Hand the conference over to Mr. Tushar Manudhane from Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Malika. Welcome to Q3 FY21 earnings call of Alkem Laboratories. From the management side, we have Mr. Sandeep Singh, Managing Director, Mr. Rajesh Dubey, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Amit Gare, President, International Business, Mr. Yogesh Kaushal, President, Chronic Division, and Mr. Gagan Borana from Investor Relations. Over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Tushar. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for taking out time and joining us for Alkem Laboratories Q3 and 9 months FY21 earnings call. Earlier during the day, we have released our financial results, and the same are also posted on our website. To discuss the business performance and outlook going forward, we have on this call the senior management team of Alkem. Before I proceed with this call, I would like to remind everybody that the call is being recorded and the call transcript will be made available on our website as well. I would also like to add that today's discussion may include forward-looking statements, and the same must be viewed in conjunction with the risk that our business faces. At the end of this call, if any of your queries remains unanswered, please feel free to get in touch with me. With this, I would like to hand over the call to Mr. Sandeep Singh to present the key highlights of the quarter and the year gone by and strategy going forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Evan. Good evening, everyone. Quarter 3 of FY21 has been a healthy quarter for the company, with growth returning in our India business. Compared to the decline in the first half of the year, our India business registered a growth in quarter 3 with significant recovery in our acute portfolio. In chronic areas of cardiac and anti-diabetes, we continue to grow ahead of therapy growth rate and improve our standing in the representative markets. Our trade generic business, which has been a strong driver of our growth in recent quarters, continues to grow at a robust pace. In the recent calls, I had mentioned about launching biosimilars in India market from our own R&D lab and manufacturing facilities at Enzene. On this front, I'm happy to share that we have received the marketing authorization from DCGI for our first product from Enzene, and we look forward to launch this product soon in India. Moving on to international business, which grew by 7% during the quarter and 18% for the 9 months of this financial year. Our US business has grown well in the financial year so far, with close to 20% year-on-year growth. During the quarter, we received 10 ANDA approvals from the US FDA, which takes the total tally to 16 ANDA approvals this year. This bodes well for our future growth in the US market, which has largely been driven by new product launches. Apart from US, amongst other international markets, Australia and Chile registered healthy growth during the quarter. We continue to judiciously invest in R&D, which is an important pillar for our growth. This quarter, we have invested close to 134 crores in R&D, which is 11% higher than what we had invested in the same quarter last year. We now have 149 products filed with the US FDA, out of which we have received approval for 102 of them, out of which 14 are tentative approvals. In terms of regulatory status of our manufacturing facilities, all our 6 manufacturing facilities supplying to the US markets have received EIR as on date. Our new manufacturing facility in Indore is awaiting pre-approval inspection by US FDA. We continue to invest in our people and technology to ensure our facilities comply with the global regulatory CGMP standards. Talking about some of financial highlights during the quarter gone by, the savings in marketing and other expense during the quarter, coupled with our ongoing efforts towards productivity improvement and process optimizations, has helped in EBITDA margins expanding by 200 basis points to 22.8% compared to 20.8% last year. Also during the quarter and 9 months of the financial year, we have shown significant improvement in our operating cash flows. This has helped us further strengthen our balance sheet with net cash position of close to 800 crores compared to net debt at the start of the year. Going forward, with the reduction in COVID cases and vaccination drive across the globe, I am hopeful that on-the-ground situation will further improve and there would be a pickup in new prescription generation, which should help the pharma industry. A comprehensive product portfolio, strong execution team, and continuous investments in R&D and compliance should help us deliver value to our patients and our stakeholders. Thank you for listening.
Can we move on to Q&A?
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Damayanti from HSBC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, my question is, now India broadly back to pre-COVID level in terms of operations. How do you see operating cost trending ahead? And earlier you were very conservative in terms of our margin outlook. So do you believe there will be upside to what you had earlier anticipated in next year or so?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So I think on the India market per se, Yogesh can't talk, but on the margin front, I just like to answer your question. So your question, I think, is on the margin expansion. I would mention that this year was a kind of abnormal year, but nevertheless, I think what we guided even 1 year back to all of y'all, that every year we do see improvements coming in the operating operations of domestic as well as international, and domestic and particularly, chronic is firing in all cylinders, and productivity is very less compared to acute. It's 1/3. So that growth will happen, and we foresee that margins would expand in the next year as well. Overall basis. So this year margins might be higher because of lower marketing costs, but that 200 basis EBITDA margin expansion, we stand by that, what we had mentioned.
Okay, sir. And in terms of pickup in India part, it's all back to a pre-COVID level, right? But cost might still see some lower level because of all the efficiency measures which you had put in place.
Yeah, so rightly said by you that overall business on a domestic front as an industry is almost back to pre-COVID, going at around 11%, 10.5 to 11. Now, operating cost, which if I understand you rightly, you're talking about marketing operating cost, then, there will be some, permanent changes. So that will remain relatively low compared to the previous year. So there will be a marketing cost optimization which will sustain beyond COVID also.
Okay, that's helpful. And my second question is on the US part. We have done reasonably well in last few quarters, and we are almost at 300 million kind of base. So how do you see this business, say 3 to 4 years from now? And how do you see Indore plant scaling up once FDA inspects and approves the plant?
Mr. Amit Ghare, can you take that question, please?
Sure. So the first part of your question, I think last quarter or the quarter before, we had broadly guided saying, we expect our US business to continue to grow strong, certainly in double digits, lower double digits, obviously, about 15%. And that is a commitment that we have sort of made to ourselves. And we are very clear about that. This is where we'll grow. So that's the kind of CAGR that, you can really expect. Now, as far as Indore facility is concerned, it's just one of the other facilities for us. Of course, there are some fiscal benefits associated with it. And as and when it gets approved, we'll obviously optimize our production.
Okay, again, that's helpful. And we are good in terms of current plants catering to our growth need, right? Without putting in any new capex.
Yes, if you're asking from capacity perspective, we are very well poised right now.
Okay, sir. That's helpful. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Thakkar from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. So if you could comment on our anti-infective space in India, how are the penins, Taxanes, IVs, how are this particular therapy segment behaving now?
Yeah. So, antibiotics, especially in the acute overall and antibiotics, they still have to recover and go back to pre-COVID days. So I think we do see some growth, but we have not reached pre-COVID days yet.
Yeah. So the primary reason why it is taking so long to pick up, would that be because of people not falling ill, or you feel there's still lower footfalls in terms of visits to the doctors?
I think both. Ultimately, both. The schools and all that are shut. Going out is still curtailed, still coming up, and hygiene has gone up. So I think combination of these factors are kind of inhibiting that growth, which I think is good. Good for the nation.
Yeah, obviously, yes. A related question would be on, once everything settles down, the virus issues and all, even post that, do we expect trade generic business to grow as fast, but not as fast as last year, but still a better momentum, or you feel that the branded business will take over?
No, so I think there's no question of branded business taking over or other business taking over. I think this year trade generics had a good run, not only for us, for maybe other large players as well, because trade generics could, reach out to markets where branded business was struggling this year. So I think this was a great year. We do not think that it can repeat again next year. So branded business will be back, and the growth percentage of trade generics would come down.
Yeah. So one of your competitor, is trying to shift the trade generic part of the business to its consumer division. Do you feel that creates a opportunity for you in the sense that an extra space is created?
Yeah, it does in a way, but they also know what they are doing. They are extremely good. They are number one, so we don't underestimate them. We don't think they are doing anything wrong. It might create some disruptions in the short term, but nothing to get too excited about and think that it's going to be something great for us.
Okay, this is helpful. Just one more from my side. On the US side, whatever new launches are happening, so in your assessment, would those new launches happen in the first wave now, or it's too early to say?
Yeah, Mr. Ghare, maybe you can answer that.
Sorry, I missed the question. What did you say? What was the first?
So I was alluding to the fact that whether new launches would happen in the first wave, or it's too early to comment about it.
You mean first wave as in day one or day 181? Well, obviously the aim is to be in the first wave in the market always, but we don't always get it right. So to that extent, whatever opportunities come our way and whatever we are able to launch in the first wave, that is always welcome.
Okay, this is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abdul Puranwala from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is with the trade generic segment. So, sir, how would this business as a whole would have performed in Q3?
It has outperformed the branded business, but exact percentage I don't think so. We disclose those details, but it has outperformed our branded business significantly.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. And second question is on Enzene Biosciences. So I believe there was one biosimilar approval which they have got an approval from DCGI.
Correct.
So what would be the commercial plans and the size of the opportunity which we could eye for this particular product?
This product we want to launch anytime through Alkem, and we already are selling the molecule. We were doing it from some other company because Enzene was not ready. So this is already a 15 crore brand for us. The market size of this brand, I cannot recollect, I can get back to you. Overall opportunity which we are chasing for domestic market in the pipeline of Enzene is close to 2,000 crores. Obviously, this plays out over the next 3 to 5 years. But yeah, So that is in general for India market size what we are chasing.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Neha Mankuria from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. Amit, on the US business, given that we got 10 approvals this quarter, is there any specific reason why the revenue was flat quarter-on-quarter? Did we see any price adjustment, inventory adjustment, etc.?
Yes. So the number of launches for the entire 9 months still continues to be about 7. So, obviously that is the reason. Revenue is obviously direct function of launches. We are in the process of gearing up for our, launches. And if you recall, we had made a commitment again that, this year we will have between 10 to 12 launches, and we are, very well poised for that number in the entire fiscal year.
Understood. And my second question is, on now that we have about 40 ANDAs approval, our filing seems to have slowed down. I mean, we didn't file anything this quarter. Do we need to pick up the filing to be able to maintain our growth momentum, the 15% growth CAGR that you're talking about?
Yeah. So
Sandeep, I think
I'm taking that question. Yeah. Thank you. So I think please keep in mind that, one quarter should not, form a basis of judging anything. For example, we got 10 approvals this quarter, but does not mean we'll get that many every quarter in approval. Similarly, for filing, we have always maintained we'll file close to 12 to 15 ANDAs, and that's the run rate we are confident will achieve. And that's what it's going to be. So keep in mind that, growth, of course, depends on number of ANDA filing, but it also depends on the quality of ANDA filing. And keep in mind that now we have to balance, a biotech R&D also. So keeping all this into consideration, I think 12 to 15 is something we are more than happy to find in the next few years, every year.
So historically, this number used to be, close to 20. We've even done 23, 24 filings in the past.
Yeah,
so you're saying that
depends how you do it, and some years it would be higher, as you said. But we have always maintained that's what we want to do, and we will be doing that. 12 to 15 is something which we have maintained all throughout.
Understood. My second question.
Sorry. But the average is going to be 12 to 15.
Understood. And my second question is on the India business. If I were to look at our acute portfolio, while I understand that, it's probably not gone back to pre-COVID levels, would it be fair to assume that, because of the disruption in the market, we've probably been able to gain more share versus the smaller players given the strong brand presence? If you could give some color, on how probably the disruption has helped us?
Yeah, so we have got gained market share in most of our large brands, whether it is Clavam or Pan and Pantoprazole. Most of them we have gained market share, ma'am. So that's a fair point. And going ahead also, we are looking to restructure our acute business in the next year, where we will be further going for market share. It's a good point that where I should mention that we are looking at some small expansion also for the acute segment in the coming financial year.
So by restructure, you mean, add more, MRs or?
It's a combination of adding few people, not too much. It's a combination of shifting brands from one SBU to the other. So, it's decluttered, we can focus. It's a kind of combination of all that. But to answer you, we have gained market share and we further want to accelerate that market share. Because as you know, market is not under our control, the growth rates. But yes, gaining is something which we can control far better.
Understood. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rashmi Sancheti from InCred Research. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So just little more clarification on trade generic segment. I think in the first half it contributed roughly around 25% to the India sales business. So are we at the same level in this quarter also, or it has dropped to around 20% sort of?
We are close to 20-25 in between that. Exact numbers, we don't get, but yes, that's a good estimate, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, on overall industry in terms of anti-infective or antibiotic therapy, is it that the hospital demand has not yet picked up? I mean, is it that it is still there are a lot of delay in the surgeries and everything? I mean, it is not picking up, or it is taking a lot of time? Because earlier we thought that in the second half of the year, post unlocking, things would pick up in surgeries and everything. So how is it overall?
So I think it has picked up, but it has not picked up the way we thought, and it's not gone to pre-COVID days. And yes, in hospitals and higher injectables, higher antibiotics, those things are pretty slow right now.
Okay, but do you think that the pickup would be fast in FY22?
I do think, but time will tell. But I think there are good reasons that we will be going back to the normal in the next few months.
Okay. And sir, lastly, on operating margins, FY21 being exceptional because, we saved a lot of cost. So you said that, there is a scope of expansion every year. So on this high margins, you are saying that, FY22, there would be still scope, on a few basis point expansion?
Yeah, I understood your question, ma'am. So, I said that this year is not kind of a very normal year. So, obviously, this year we should not consider and think that will further go up from this year. But if you remember, last year, EBITDA margins, I think, were around 17.5%, if I recollect. And
Yes.
you maintain that we'll go up, let's say, by 200 basis points every year. So, I think if you keep that into guidance, next year we could expect that we'll be close to 19.5%, 20% EBITDA margin.
Okay.
Just taking that guidance which I told last year.
Okay. But you also mentioned that, there would be a lot of cost savings, which will be continued in FY22 also because of the digitization initiative and all.
You can hit numbers which you hit this year. I wish I could do that, but I cannot.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nikhil Mathur from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my first question is on the input cost environment. Can you throw some color on how the input cost environment has been in FY21 versus FY20? And do you believe that there could be any sharp movement, whether upside or downside, in the coming 3-4 quarters?
Nikhil, you are not very clear. Can you repeat the question?
Is it better now?
Yeah, it is better.
Yeah. So my question was on the input cost environment from Alkem's perspective. Can you shed some light on how the input costs have shaped up through 9 months FY21 versus FY20? And what would be the outlook for the coming 3 to 4 quarters?
Nikhil, I think you are asking for input cost.
Yes.
See, I think as far as availability is concerned, we are quite comfortable. And if your question is on cost, I think we don't see any abnormal. Yes, 1 or 2 API, it always moves ups and down. But there is no abnormal kind of pressure on cost front also. So we are quite comfortable on API procurement as well as on cost also.
Okay. And just a question tied to this from a 2 to 3 year standpoint. Are there initiatives, whether it is product launches or focusing on procurement efficiencies or a bit of backward integration, are any strategic actions being undertaken to improve the business mix at a sustainable level?
Yeah, Nikhil, we always work on optimization of our input cost. Yes, alternate vendor sourcing, better negotiation, optimization in yield. All this kind of exercise, it goes on. It goes on continuous basis. So yes, if your hinting is somewhere towards backward integration, I think some small part, yes, important API, definitely everybody has to think, and that's what we are also doing. But leaving that apart, I think we have a complete plan, and that exercise goes on, and we don't see any reason to have any issue on this front.
Okay. And just one final question. On the biosimilars pursuit in the domestic market, what can be the challenges for Alkem to scale up in this particular business? The reason I ask this question is that we don't really see many large-sized companies who are investing in biosimilars from a regulated market standpoint being very comfortable on the domestic market. So what is different that Alkem is kind of doing here, and what kind of the challenges that might trouble you in terms of scale up, operating losses for a considerable period of time? Anything that you can share on?
No, good. Thank you. That's a good question. We have started this from India market, but ultimately we'll have to take our products to ROW, and the final destination is obviously Europe and US. That's a 5-year plan, but the vision which Alkem or any other company also perhaps are doing biosimilars in India is to take it global. So if your question, so that's point number one, just to make that thing very clear. Second, I think what challenges Alkem might face to commercialize it. I think point number one, some of the biosimilars are into oncology space where we are not very strong currently. So we don't have the same strength, for example, which we have in antibiotics or with the GP franchisee. We don't have that same equation there. So I think that is something we should have to build. But just keep in mind that Enzene is not, a biotech, we are open to even work with third parties, not necessarily just ourselves for our product. So that's what I want to tell you. If there's something specific, I'll take your questions. Thank you.
No, I think that's fair enough. Thank you so much for taking my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prakash Agarwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good evening. Sir, missed the opening remarks, but could you, split the growth of India business in RX and GX?
So normally, Prakash, we kind of don't give those numbers specifically, but I know I mentioned in all the questions, Prakash, that trade generics business growth rate was far higher than a branded business in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Okay,
thank you. And on the, there's a sharp uptick in other income. So I totally understand the cash would have gone up, but is there anything else apart from interest income? Anything from real estate investments which were in the past as monetized, or?
I think our CFO will take that question. Yeah, Mr.
Yeah. Yes, Prakash, other income is on higher side. That's mainly on account of uptake of one of our brand. That is major one. And there was a sale of asset also in that. So that amount is there. Of course, real estate is not in this. Actually, as you know, real estate investment, it is valued on fair valuation. So yes, some liquidation amount it has come, but it's not any big component in our other income.
And asset monetization is with respect to what, sir?
Selling of a brand. We sold a brand to Abbott.
Okay. And what would be the cash position now? We turned net cash last quarter, if I'm not wrong.
So currently we are somewhere close to 780 crores or 800 crores. That is our cash position. And Prakash, as on 31st of March, we were negative of 335 crores. So in this 9 months period, cash generation, it was more than 1,000 crores.
So what I understand is you had 300 crore net debt. Now you have turned 700-800 net cash.
Yeah, your understanding is correct.
Okay. And what is the capex, sir, in this 9 months?
The capex, right now, capex is somewhere close to 130 crores. But actually, during COVID period, capital expenditure, it was very restricted also. But we feel we'll be somewhere close to 290 to 300 crores by end of the year.
Okay. And last one on working capital side. So the first half for most companies, there were 7-10 days extra given to the channel. So is this reversing now already, or currently we are at the similar ones which we saw in the first half?
No, Prakash. We were always careful giving extra credit days, and for some part of the period it was given extra credit days to our stockists. But now there is nothing additional as such as of now.
But has it resorted to the fiscal 20 numbers, like in terms of receivable days and inventory days?
No, if I see 31st December, I don't think it has any major impact. That's already it got normalized also.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitish Balasubramaniam from Bernstein Research. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I just had one question on the savings that you said are likely to sustain. So I just wanted to probe that a little deeper. If I look at your other expenses and remove R&D, it's grown, of course, grown compared to Q2, 11% growth. And compared to last year, it's actually flat. So what, if you can tell us what sort of savings are you seeing, if you can help quantify this a little bit?
So, Nitya, actually, what I understand, you are asking saving in or other expenses. Am I correct?
Yes, which I presume is mostly India sales and marketing expenses.
Yeah, you are very right. If I have to refer my YTD number, yes, saving, you can see substantial saving is there. But on quarterly basis, you won't witness any major saving. And your understanding is very correct. Major saving in our marketing expenditure during pandemic period.
No, I understand on a 9-month basis, you will actually be lower than last year, right? Which is, you had Q1 and Q2, which were abnormal quarters. But Q3 is a little bit more comparable because your field operations have normalized to a large extent. And if I compare Q3 this year and Q3 last year, the expenses seem to be flat.
Yeah.
But I also heard that you do expect some savings and the cost to broadly normalize at a lower level. But that's not what we are seeing in the P&L in Q3. So if you can help us understand where the disconnect is.
You mean to say that the expense has not gone up? That's the disconnect, right, ma'am?
No, you said that there are actually savings, right? You will actually realize savings this year, and some of it will be sustained next year as well.
Right.
What I'm seeing in Q3 is that your costs are already fully back compared to last year.
Okay. So, I mean, there's no disconnect, I would say. See, some things could get lumpy, and you're comparing one quarter, but we are looking at the whole of next year and seeing what all we can cut down on. And we have a reasonable idea that what we can. And COVID has taught us, everyone, what we can cut down on. So I think that learning is there. Not necessarily whatever learning we have done should reflect in quarter 3. So just we have to keep that in mind.
Okay. So I think last earnings call you had shared some instances of CMEs, etc., moving online, etc., right? So that was almost 3 months back. But now that you're back on the field, are these changes in behavior sticking?
I think that is still early days. I think they're not, I think it will still play out, ma'am, if you ask me. The real worth of that judgment would be in June, July next year. But we are sticking to it. We are trying. We know that we have to stick to it. We continue to promote telemedicines and things like that. So give us some time to really answer you. It would be premature to give you an answer.
Thank you so much. Another practical one, your cost looks much better than last year as well as last quarter. Are there any specific initiatives or any one-offs that we should be aware of?
Cost means you are looking to our gross margin level. I think there is nothing abnormal as such. Sample, lesser sample it has gone in this cost, and that is very, yeah. So it looks on a little bit on the higher side.
Sir, we always mention our
Thank
range
you very much.
between 60 to 62. So we are in that range. Okay, it will be some factor of mix also. So that we will keep in mind.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal Randeria from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. So my first question is regarding the U.S. business outlook. So if you can just qualitatively say, you've always mentioned a number of products that you might be launching, but in terms of, type of products, are there any sort of $15-20 million kind of products that we can expect? How many could those be in the next couple of years? Any FTF? If you can just explain.
Mr. Ghare?
Well, we always have a combination of products, and I know it's a very generic sounding answer, but obviously we continue to file FTS, so we will have opportunities to launch day one products, even though that might be a shared exclusivity. We also have, products which are, let's say, plain vanilla generics, or we can launch upon approval. So there's always a combination. And qualitatively, if I can, give you a word, obviously our aim will be, like we have always guided, that we should have between 12 to 15 ANDA filings every year, and we hope to launch between 8 to 10 every year, which for this year we had raised to 10 to 12. But we remain in that 8 to 10 range in terms of new launches every year.
So, but any guidance in number of, big ticket kind of launches, $15-20 million kind of products?
I would refrain from giving any such guidance.
Fair enough. So my second question is on gross margins. I'm sorry to again dig a bit deep. So I know you have mentioned 60 to 62% in the past. But see, this year this was probably a very weak year for the domestic business. Plus now we have lost the MEIS export incentive also. And trade generic contribution was higher. So I'm just wondering what is actually driving the gross margin here. Is it that there's a marked improvement in the US business that's driving it?
Actually, this MEIS, it is not coming directly in our gross margin. It goes under our EBITDA. So you are very right. MEIS, of course, it's a material amount for us. But this 61, 62% we talked, we talked at COGS level. I think our guidance is always somewhere close to 61% that we are going to maintain. And we are confident, yes, depending on business mix, sometimes some basis point here or there it happens, but generally we'll be there at 61%.
Sir, I understand that. It's just, maybe has the US margins improved drastically?
Yeah, and when I refer mix, I think US business and particularly new launches, better margin business, actually that has given us advantage there also. So looking to our next year also, I think similar kind of situation on gross margin front at least we are going to have, and we'll be comfortable somewhere close to 61%.
Okay, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Hegde from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for taking my question. So on the US business, going forward, how much margin expansion are you expecting with the 8 to 10 products and the kind of shared exclusivity and all which you mentioned?
Mr. Ghare, you can please take that.
We've again refrained from giving out margin profile for our US business or even segmenting business even within India. But obviously our aim going forward is rather than just focus on the top line growth to also improve our overall margins. And always remember that US always gives us a very good operating leverage because the costs don't really go up in the same proportion, certainly not in the same proportion. So, as a very general guidance, what I can always say is that, our focus will continue to be making sure that we continue to expand our overall margin as we look to, expand our market share and our revenues.
So, sir, would you say that these 8 to 10 products which you are going to launch in the coming years per year, so these would have better margins from the products that you have currently?
Honestly, the answer always is yes, not just for these 8 to 10 products in the current year or next year. Generally, the new products always have a better margin profile compared to the legacy business or the existing business, for the simple reason that, ultimately the new products go through deflation over a period of time. So when they they become existing or legacy business, their prices have already deflated. So to that extent, new products always are at a better margin profile.
Thanks for that. Secondly, on the India business, how are you seeing growth in the VMN segment with COVID cases going down? Have you seen any decline in the December month?
Not really. If you look at, compared to second and third quarter, second quarter there is certainly a slight dip, but not much. Second quarter grew at almost 35-40% types. And this quarter is around 23 to 25%. So there is a slight dip in the multivitamins growth.
Thanks. Just last question. On the MR side, you mentioned about adding some to the acute business. So would that be at the expense of your chronic growth plans going forward, or how do you see that?
So can you connect your question from acute expansion and chronic growth? Can you repeat your question?
You mentioned about some MR in the acute segment.
Yeah.
Gain additional growth. So would that be at the expense of your growth plans for chronic, or is this?
No, not at all. No. Acute is completely treated, and chronic difference is no connection in this.
Okay. So this would be in addition to your.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Can you move on to next question, please?
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Harith Ahmed from Spark Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi. Good evening. Thanks for taking my question. On the domestic market, could you share some thoughts on the expansion in Jan Aushadhi store network that we've seen, where we've seen a pickup in recent years? And then do you look at it as a threat to the branded generic segment? And then I'm asking especially in the context of our plans to scale up our chronic therapies. And then we see in chronic therapies there's some traction in terms of patients moving towards Jan Aushadhi.
Being such a large market, Jan Aushadhi by and large will address a different segment of population. And your branded generic will always remain in a different segment. So actually, if you ask me, there's no yes or no answer to this. But if you want to make an assumption, that assumption is that those people who are not taking medicine because of price reasons, the consumption may go up. So Jan Aushadhi will address those segments. So currently I don't see any major challenge on formulation business because of Jan Aushadhi.
Thanks for that. And on the US business, I have a question. Now, you built a solid base of over $300 million, largely on the back of oral solids. And as we think of scaling up the business towards $500, $600 million, do you think there is more room to grow on the back of oral solids, or should we think of more capital allocation and R&D spends towards non-oral dosage forms like injectables or dermatology or perhaps inhalers and biosimilars? So in the near term as well as the medium term. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think I'll answer some part of it, and Mr. Ghari can also add something. So we have reached wherever we have reached, you're right, mainly because of oral solids. And I think we are still small, even if you just think we can do oral solids, because we can easily go to $600 million just on oral solids.
And you mentioned that whether we should allocate capital to, other therapy areas or other dosage forms. Please keep in mind that oral solid itself is pretty large. For example, we are still to really commercialized controlled substances, for which we have plants and plans in US. So that is still to play out, and that's oral solids, but that's controlled substance that still has to play out. We don't want to be distracted and invest in too many places. I think I mentioned that long term we do see biosimilars getting commercialized in Europe and US, but though that's a 5-year plan. So other than that, we don't want to kind of put money or distract ourselves with other things. We rather do few things and do them well. Amit, if there's anything, please feel free to add.
No, it was a comprehensive answer, so you covered everything.
All right. Thanks. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Chirag Dagli from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. So just a quick question. I'm sorry to, sort of keep harping on this point, but in terms of, the marketing spends, let's say if we were 100 pre-COVID, where are we in Q3 and where were we in first half? And how much of that can we keep, how much of those savings can we keep in FY22?
Chirag, actually we are trying to communicate marketing spend. Yes, one thing pre-COVID and now things are getting normalized. So where we are going, but out of that, some part of that expense, we can live without that. So that is permanent kind of saving. So I think still it has to come back to pre-COVID, and it has started in quarter 3, but still it has not come. So that is one thing. Yes, some portion. So it may be 5%, 7% kind of thing. I think that optimization opportunity is always there. So we are talking that.
You are basically saying, sir, 5% of the spend you can save.
So I'm not concluding on 5%. Our feel is something like that.
If he wants, he can say that.
No, sir. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying when you say this 5 to 7%.
I told you what EBITDA we could expect. I think that should be good enough. Now, see, few answers we also don't know, sir. We are entrepreneurs. We are living by the day. We'll find out.
Understood, sir. Okay, fair point. And when you say, in your initial comment or in one of the comments, you mentioned that 70 to 80% of the, acute business is back. Is that what you suggested, or did you say practices are, doctor practices are?
I think it's almost the same thing, and I think your statement is broadly okay. I think that's what we think it is.
Understood.
I'll just add to what Sandeep said. If you go by IQVIA, from minus 76% prescription, now it is minus 15. So you can understand the recovery, and except hospitals, you can assume that almost all are not practicing. So you are right in your assessment about almost 80 to 85% is back.
Understood, sir. And sir, can you share, on the chronic piece, how has our prescriber base expanded over the last couple of years, and are we more GP focused or more specialty doctor focused?
So in chronic doctor expansion, I won't be really able to give you a right number, but yes, there is a doctor expansion because market doctor expansions happens at a range of around 4 to 5%, and mostly we are ahead of market growth in doctor expansion. What was the second question? Sorry, I missed out your...
Sir, are we more specialty doctors focused or more GP focused?
So in
our chronic business?
Yeah, in chronic, we don't have GPs. We only focus on specialists. There's no GP space in chronic business.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. I am done with my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you move on to the next question, please? Can you move on to the next question?
Malika, you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
The next question is from the line of Swarnabh Mukherjee from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Fine, go ahead.
The pricing environment in the U.S., are you seeing any deterioration since things are stabilizing in terms of supplies, through the year? That's one, because, you would have gained some market share in metformin, et cetera, where a lot of competitors have moved out. So I'm wondering, it doesn't get reflected in the U.S. numbers. So any comment on the pricing environment in U.S.?
Mr. Ghare?
I missed the first part of the question, Sayan, but I guess you were asking for overall deflation happening and price deflation, and perhaps not getting fully reflected in our numbers either ways, either market share gains or price deflation. So look, price deflation this year is certainly there, as it is there every year. For the initial part of the year, obviously because of COVID, I would say the deflation was a little bit on the lower side, but deflation is back. It is in single digits, as has been there always. And yes, we have gained market share from few areas, as metformin, as well as a few other products, and we've also lost market share in few other products because of change in competitive landscape. Deflation is there as always, really not very different.
Okay. And the second is a product-specific question. There is a favorable ruling on ibuprofen famotidine combination. You have a tentative approval. So what are the steps forward, and is that an opportunity that can be realized in the near term?
Amit?
Sandeep, you want me to take that? Or
yes, I want you to take that. Tough question again. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. You want me to take that, Sandeep?
Yes, Amit, I do. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, you're right, Sayan. We have a favorable ruling in the district court. However, brand has taken us to the appeals court as was expected, and we are litigating there. So any decision in terms of launch will be at-risk launch. We are the sole litigators and sole likely launchers. So the at-risk is obviously a compounded number for us. Rather than going into steps, I think really the key decision making for us is whether we want to go on in terms of at-risk launch or not. And honestly, we are in that decision making process. Let me put it that way. But certainly we are litigating, and we are litigating in the appeals court.
Okay. Thank you. And Sandeep, one question for you. I mean, now we have a cash positive balance sheet. I know you have been very conservative looking at inorganic growth opportunities. I mean, how are you planning for this, cash? And I am assuming it's going to go up from the current levels. So any thoughts there on deployment of cash going forward?
I think, China, fortunately, unfortunately, I'm going to maintain my stand what I said. So, we are going to maintain a dividend policy, nothing special. However, keep in mind that, yes, if we keep accumulating the way things are and we do well, in next 2-3 years, we will be having a golden jubilee, and that might be a good opportunity to do something one time. But let's hold our horses, I'll request. So we have that in mind, but let us really accumulate the cash and we'll talk about it closer to golden jubilee, perhaps.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you everyone for attending this call. If any of your queries have remained unanswered, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.